New Africa Broadcasting Network.
It's another day, another week, another very exciting episode of Let's Talk About It. Ladies and gentlemen, I want to welcome my guests to the studio. Dr. Mo Ene, welcome.
Thank you.
And I have Dr. Eloho Otobo. You're welcome as well.
Thank you.
And Labode Obano, you're welcome to the studios.
We're
going to be talking today about three major issues relating to first the incident talking about the Democratic Republic of Congo, DRC. There was another diplomatic incident that we will talk more about later on. And finally, we will be discussing Nigeria's current relationship with South Africa. Congolese security operatives some time ago brushed aside diplomatic immunity usually enjoyed by representatives of foreign governments to eject the Nigerian ambassador to Congo, Ibim Charles, from his official residence.
In fact, this property was donated by the Democratic Republic of Congo government in the 70s.
The ambassador's residence in the highbrow district of Gombe in Kinshasa, the capital city, reserved for diplomats. A video of the ejection by the Congolese government official went viral on social media.
Et ils sont entrés.
They broke into the diplomatic house. They entered.
L'ambassadeur du Nigeria s'en remet aux autorités congolaises tout en fustigeant la procédure. Il dit n'avoir pas été notifié à l'avance. À tout prix, les effets du premier secrétaire d'ambassade dans son domicile ont été butés au refus catégorique du nouvel occupant sous la barbe des agents de l'ordre.
Cette maison nous appartient, vous n'y rentrez.
Article 22.1 of Vienna Convention on Diplomatic Relations of 1961 states as follows. The premises of the mission shall be inviolable. The agents of the receiving state may not enter them except with the consent of the head of the mission. The receiving state is under a special duty to take all appropriate steps to protect the premises of the mission against any intrusion or damage and to prevent any disturbance of the peace of the mission or impairment of its dignity. The premises of the mission, their furnishings, and other property thereon, and the means of transport of the mission shall be immune from search, requisition, attachment, or execution. In the video, however, properties belonging to the Nigerian embassy were thrown out of the building, with some officials seen stranded outside after they were locked out of their accommodation. It was not immediately clear why the embassy was subjected to the treatment, which is said to have happened on Thursday. Gentlemen, let's talk about these issues, this summary that you've just heard about the situation at the DRC. What's your impression? What's your take? What have you learned about it? Doctor.
Thank you so much. I think it was a fella, Durotoye, who said that ordinary citizens of a great nation will always be treated better than successful citizens of a failed country. It's just very obvious that a country like Congo, that Nigeria helped to stabilize in the 60s, sacrificed so much for, would turn around and treat a representative of the country in Congo like if he was some so-called illegal alien. That is very disappointing. But that's not where we should be at this point. The story to tell is, how do we prevent such a thing from happening again? If you recall, Rami Emanuel, the former mayor of Chicago, and former chief of staff to President Obama, he said, never let a crisis go to waste. Nigeria has to find a way to tighten up its relationship with African countries. Today is Congo, tomorrow is going to be South Africa, and before you know it, even Liberia is going to try something like that. I don't know why. Maybe because the president had just nominated the ministers, and Minister Geoffrey Onyama was no longer on seat. But we have PAMSEX. We have other people in Abuja who have stepped in immediately to take charge. Admitted, Nigeria is not the United States. But Africa has to be our playground, so to speak. If we, the so-called giant of Africa, cannot do anything about this. That means that Nigeria has become a great green giant with clear claws. And that should not happen.
Okay.
Thank
Mr.
you.
Urbano?
Yeah, what happened in the Congo is an unfortunate situation, I must say. It is the level where our state of politics has descended into, where a nation such as Congo can rubbish us the way they did. But again, I'm going to go a different route the way the gentleman just went now, to say that the Congo has been in war from the 90s to 2003, and up to recently, we have the president who was not elected, but refused to leave office, and basically in violation of the constitution. So we have a nation where the rule of law is been rubbished, so to speak. So what do you expect in a nation like that, where a security officer can then walk into a diplomatic mission property and then do what they did? So I am not going to blame the people per se. I would say it is the Nigerian government who allowed this to happen, and they must do something about it. They should do something about it. And this is now becoming something that is going on around the countries in Africa. This is not only Congo. We see what's going on in South Africa and other parts of the country. So this is going to continue until our government step in and begin to represent us. This is not going to stop. I'm just going to agree with what he said.
How did Nigerian government allow this to happen? I'm just curious because people will be asking such questions from what you say.
Well, they don't have to directly allow it. They have indirectly allowed it. If our politics were properly stable, where we have proper diplomatic access, facility between both countries, if something like that was to happen, I'm not saying it cannot happen. Just again, it can happen. It can happen even in Asia or in developing countries. But there have to be mechanism in place whereby things like this can be properly dealt with. I am not going to say the government has been completely derelict in their duty, but they need to do more than what they are doing right now.
Thank you. Mr. Otobo, Nigeria has been very supportive of the DRC in so many levels. Why do you think this is happening?
Well, first of all, let me begin by saying that we cannot assign any blame to the federal government of Nigeria on this issue. Regardless of the internal political situation, there is no way that we can pin any blame on it because of what is happening in our own country. What the situation calls for now, as the clips showed, this is a violation of the Vienna Convention. So the least the Nigerian government has to do is to insist on a thorough investigation, because as the Vienna Convention on Diplomatic Relations states, the receiving state has the responsibility to protect the ambassadors and the embassies that are in its country. It is true that Congo has been in a period of political turmoil, including civil war. But this has not happened in that context. Congo is gradually returning to some semblance of peace. And therefore, the government of Nigeria has to insist that there be a thorough investigation, and those who were behind this attack have to be punished. That is the least the government can do at this stage.
Go ahead. You wanted to say
No, I'm just going to disagree just a little bit.
Okay.
That a nation which president can violate the constitution and remain in power, what rule of law is in that nation? So we got a problem. So what happened to the mission is not unexpected.
Oh, you are saying that it has not happened in a vacuum.
Exactly. This is what is expected.
Yeah, but the Vienna Convention was developed precisely to protect diplomats in their country, and not to say that they use what is happening in their countries as a reference. That cannot be the case, because if that is the case, how will one have explained the protection given to American diplomats around the world, even at the time they were violating the civil rights of Americans here? I was reading a piece the other day where this is a New York Times article. Actually, 2 weeks ago, there was a New York Times magazine written by an African American working for the New York Times, where she said that America achieved democracy after the blacks had gotten their right to vote. So what you are saying is that because America was not giving the blacks democracy at the point they were, then their diplomacy should be violated. You cannot use that as a legitimate principle of international relations.
Well, I'm saying the security apparatus were the one that was spearheading this raid.
Yes, okay. Precisely, but that is the more reason why the Nigerian government should insist that there should be a thorough investigation. Because if security people were either standing by or involved or complicit, then they have to be held culpable.
Beyond investigations, yes, things could happen. We know about Iran, how they overran the embassy of the U.S. That's a different case. Beyond all that, one thing we have seen is that Nigeria does not have adequate security for its diplomatic staff. If you could have people come out from the street and eject an ambassador without anybody trying to stop them, something is wrong. So it's amazing.
It's amazing.
So, and it's in African countries where we can afford at least to maintain, if not a battalion, but a squadron of soldiers.
What is wrong in having some military personnel
Bingo.
in embassies?
I will think
The United States does it.
I will think they have.
If that was there, what happened would not have happened, because the corporates would have been fear of a fire that could have been returned to them if they try to engage the military personnel there. So I think we need to look into either funding the diplomatic mission, giving them access to military apparatus to ameliorate the problem that we're having in all these nations.
Let's bring some realism to this debate. I don't know whether the other members of the panel are aware that the federal government is now cutting the budget of the Ministry of Foreign Affairs. In fact, as we speak, in May this year, the federal government closed 5 missions. And this is an article we published recently in Nigerian newspaper. Is Nigeria still a regional hegemon? That fact was there. So if the Nigerian government is not able to provide enough resources for normal diplomats, how much more paying for soldiers to go and guide them in foreign country?
Oh, but they can pay for soldiers to go to West African country and fight wars.
Yeah, well, that is peacekeeping.
Oh, peacekeeping.
Yeah.
Okay.
So they can pay for peacekeeping, but they cannot pay for the security
of their own citizens.
You know, that's very interesting. The same situation is occurring right now in South Africa. We're going to take a few minutes to take a look at a video clip that we have on South Africa and how they treat Nigerians.
Encourage anybody to travel down to South Africa this time around. It's dangerous as at now. South Africa is not safe. Even though we are in in South Africa as at now, it's not safe for us. Our wife are not safe. Our kids, they are not safe. Even though most of our kids, they don't go to school. Most of them, they are at home. Even though we are their parents.
No basis. People messed up their own countries, and they come here. It should be South Africa first. No guys back to their countries. If their countries don't want to take them back, send them to the Kruger National Parks. Send them to the Kruger National Parks. Let them deal with lions there. Nonsense. Can't have Nigerians running amok, selling drugs and do.
Not xenophobia. To talk truth, we fought for this land. From a white minority, we cannot surrender it to the foreign nationals. Move! Hey, get up! Get up! Go down! Go down more! Hey! Go down more!
Okay. Your full name and your organization. My name is Xolisa Mabongo. I'm the Deputy Ambassador of South Africa to the United Nations.
For NIGERIAN TV, there is this problem of xenophobia in South Africa. We've seen that it started since 2008, and a lot of Africans have been attacked, and up till recently this year. I want to ask, what do you think was responsible for this problem?
There are many elements that play into this. Some of it is simple criminality. I mean, it's criminals that are there. They simply decide sometimes to target foreigners, but sometimes they also target South Africans. So there is a problem of criminality that is at the root of this matter.
This issue that the South African government has not been able to bring these perpetrators to justice. What do you think should be done to make sure that there is deterrence from the side of the South African government?
Well, a lot of the people who have been involved in this have been caught by our government. They've been put through the
Look at what we did in South Africa during the dismantling of apartheid. Our people even gave up part of their salaries in the 70s and 80s to help in the struggle. Nobody is talking about it. We have beautiful stories to tell the global audience.
Let me get your impression, so far from what you've seen, the condition under which Nigerians are subjected to in South Africa. Any member of the panel, you can talk about, if you can, the historical background of Nigeria's involvement with South Africa, the relationship whether in the 60s, 70s, 80s, and so on and so forth.
Here we go again. The same issue. South Africa. Many of us growing up, we could recall the amount of energy, the money, the effort, the beatings we took all over the world. Every president from Mandela to Tambo, all lived in Nigeria at a point, or in exile. So we have done quite a lot for South Africa. It breaks my heart to see Nigerians being subjected to this kind of treatment that no one deserves. It has happened. Again, I'm all for solution. What happened? For such a thing to happen, there are 4 reasons. One is there has to be a remote resentment in place. There has to be an organized leadership among those who are perpetrating this. There also has to be an immediate reason for them to react the way they do. We don't have time to go through all that, but we know the situation of South Africans. We know Nigerians are not all that innocent. Like I said, they don't deserve it. But the thing is, Nigerians have to find a way to manage their diaspora communities. And the embassy needs to come in here too. We have to deploy soft powers. We have to invite politicians from that country, councillors, to embassy functions. It will cost a pot of egusi and some amala. Just entertain them. Give them chieftaincy titles. Invite them to Nigeria. You don't just have to sit down and watch these people look at you. I was in Europe in the 80s. You could see us. We were proud. Nigerians. We got into the club and we own the place. I could see some other African countries complain in French, in Portuguese. I didn't even know Africans speak Spanish. They'll complain because of the way we behave. So the thing is this, it's something that we have to sit down and talk to ourselves, not just in South Africa, in Ghana too. Because Ghanaians have not started killing Nigerians, it seems like everything is okay. So it's something that we have to do on both ends, Nigerian embassy, Nigerian diaspora, and also the host countries.
I just want to, first of all, re-echo what he said and then take it in different angle. Now, when this whole apartheid nonsense started, Nigeria was the first country to declare apartheid a problem. We were involved in expulsion of the apartheid regime from the Commonwealth. We set up international organization against the apartheid regime. We even set up a relief fund for South African citizens. Scholarships and those who could not travel. Do you know that the apartheid regime did not let the South African citizens travel out of the country? They withheld their passport. Nigerians were giving them citizenship. They were giving them passports. Now, Nigerians can't even go to South Africa without getting a visa. And you get to the airport, you'll be lucky if you go through, they might even turn you back. So again, of course, our country have a lot to they must share the responsibility for that. But again, these South Africans, I think they have amnesia. They've forgotten from whence they came and how they became a nation. Now, it is true that it is not only Nigeria that is bearing the wrath of this xenophobic attack. Namibians, Zimbabweans, Lesotho, all those surrounding nations are basically getting the wrath of the South Africans because they feel that foreigners are coming to take their jobs. But then, I think it's a problem in South Africa. It is the economic problem whereby their citizens are feeling that they've been disenfranchised. They can't even get jobs. That the foreigners are taking their job. So they need to fix their country and not put the hate on foreigners.
That leads me to the issues of education or lack of thereof for the blacks in South Africa. I've spoken to a number of people, Nigerians. You have a Nigerian doctor that's practicing in South Africa, and you have a South African with a high school level of education claiming that this doctor is taking his job. I'm finding it difficult to rationalize, and it's not. I mean, that's what they're echoing. These people are taking our jobs. They're taking our jobs. You're not qualified to practice as a physician. You're not even qualified to practice. To go into law enforcement. You don't have the required education. How are they taking your job when they're bringing expertise into the country? What do you see the role of education in all of this?
No, well, education clearly plays an important role. But let me make the point before I go forward that the relationship between South Africa and Nigeria, as reflected in the xenophobic attack, is a classical case of unrequited love. Nigeria puts a lot of sweat. It put a lot of money, and it put a lot of advocacy behind the end of apartheid. As he said, the Nigerian and the international organizations, especially the United Nations, from 1974 to 1994, when the apartheid committee at the UN was formally dissolved, it was led by a Nigerian ambassador who was at the UN at every point in time. So both internationally and bilaterally, Nigeria played an important, and within the African framework, it played an important role. Yes, education is a key issue. I remember I was in South Africa a few years ago when President Mbeki was still in power. And he made a very important comment, which some of his own fellow citizens attacked him. He said that it was unrealistic for South Africans to go to university and study Bible knowledge and expect to be recruited by the top financial firms or manufacturing firms in South Africa. That is one shade of the education. In other words, there is a mismatch between the capacity that some South Africans have acquired and what a modern economy deserves. The point he was making is that with a Bible knowledge, you are not going to be able to work with the scientific community, you are not going to be working in the financial sector, you are not going to be able to work in manufacturing. So there is, as the first speaker said, there is an element of resentment. But the question is, how come that much of this, the brunt of much of this resentment is borne by Nigerians? It is true, they may be attacking people from Zimbabwe and Namibia, but the Nigerians are bearing the brunt. In my view, this calls for serious dialogue at different levels between the government of Nigeria and the government of South Africa. One level will be the usual bilateral channel, but it is time to extend this dialogue to interparliamentary discussion as well as discussion between think tanks from where they can derive solutions in order to attack this. Because if we allow this to get out of hand, as you may know, there was an attempt some time ago, I think last year, when some Nigerians were mobilizing, Nigerian youth wanted to mobilize against South African firms. This thing can spiral out of hand. Yes. And the earlier we address it, the better.
Okay, thank you. I know that the Nigerian president, Buhari, I beg your pardon, is making efforts to now go to South Africa. He will be in South Africa, and I'm not sure when. If you were in a position to advise him, what would you say to him?
First of all, before I answer that question, we need to ask what role is the South African politician playing in these attacks? Are they contributing to it? Are they fueling it? I was reading recently in a news article that a politician in South Africa said the Nigerians, the immigrant community, should share their ideas their business knowledge. These are proprietary information. They should share it with the indigenous South Africans. Why would you want to do that? So, the politicians are fueling this. The hate is coming from within them. Now, again, I keep going back, we need to fix our country, otherwise our people will not be going. But there's nothing wrong in trade. People can, most of Nigerians who are there are business people. They have their shops, they do business. They're not coming there to take your job. They are coming to create employment for you. So why are you attacking them? Now, the president is going there. I applaud him for going there. The Somalian government, when they realized that the South Africans were not doing anything about the killings of their people, they started evacuating their people. Maybe it's time we need to start doing that. Maybe Buhari needs to talk, have a dialogue with them, do whatever they need to do, fix this problem, or Nigerians should start going back home.
When the president gets there, he will play all the diplomatic niceties. But behind the curtain, he must tell the South African president that this thing is getting out of hand. Do you know that South Africa owns all ShopRites in Nigeria? Right. MTN? The TV? Look, you tell the man, listen, this is just us outside the TV cameras. If this thing happens again, people are going to react. And Nigerians are reacting already outside Nigeria. So inside Nigeria, they'll find a soft target. People are angry. And they might take it on South African firms. Because I believe that law enforcement in South Africa is not doing enough to stop their people from killing their neighbors. Why? Because they happen to be successful on a small shop and make some money, which they spend in the country. So I think the president, his job is cut out for him. I don't think he's a man who will speak in this language, but somehow you have to. And that's why people like Trump, you know, he says stuff.
Yeah, I agree that evacuating them will not be the solution. Evacuation is a last resort that governments normally undertake when they know that a country is going to fall into a crisis, going to go into a civil war. But if we start evacuating all our citizens in countries that are not in civil war because they are being molested, I think that will send a very bad signal.
This is more than molestation.
Yeah, well, fine, molesting or killing or whatever, yeah. Fine, it's killing. But I think, as I said earlier, the solutions are embodied in what I said earlier. Namely, if the president goes, he should have a serious dialogue with his counterparts in South Africa. They should now start mechanisms in which there will be dialogue at 3 levels. There will be diplomatic dialogue, there will be interparliamentary dialogue, there will be dialogue among the things, but more importantly, there should also be effort made to instruct the South African security forces to be on the watch out at any effort to kill, abduct, or molest Nigerians.
Can I ask you a question? How long has this attack been going on? It's been going on for years.
No, but when you say years, when did South Africa get independence? When did they
so you think 6-7 years is not enough?
No, but you see, the thing is this. 6-7 years is a long time. But when you say years, you talk as if we are talking of decades. The point, I agree. The point is that when things like this happen, governments have to watch exactly the nature. Because at present, I don't know whether you have seen any study. I have not seen any study on the nature and scope of these attacks. We can be reading newspapers and forming our impression. But our government ought to commission some studies to see exactly what are the sources of this type of thing and know how they can move forward.
We don't need to study the killing. It's all over the news. Okay. BBC have carried it, CNN has carried it, legitimate media organizations have carried it. Yes. We don't need to do any studies. Okay. We need to safeguard and protect our people.
No, fine. But we need to protect and safeguard our people. But you are not going to go there and put your troops on the ground, as some of you.
No, well, we can evacuate our people.
No, you can't evacuate your people.
They won't even go with you.
I'm certain there's not going to be any kind of movements on the ground. Absolutely. The Nigerian forces or the South African forces, they're not at that level yet. But I do believe that the president, I'm totally against the indoor meetings. At this point, we've had more than 265 people dead within a short period of time. One death is too many. So they need to come out, they need to talk about it, they need to let people know what they're doing. Otherwise, the South African firms in Nigeria currently, and they have a huge presence. The MTN you mentioned, I've heard Nigerians talk about the possibility of shutting down these firms. They get away with a whole lot of things in Nigeria. That's what I'm hearing. I don't know, I'm not there, but I'm speaking to people, and I think the president should have a serious, talk, a dialogue with the president in South Africa. I think they should bring people along that would, present these issues in a way that the people can understand. And on that note, I want to say thank you, gentlemen, for we can go about this forever, but we're not going to do that at this point. I have my next set of guests, and we'll be talking about certain issues regarding Nigeria and beyond. Thanks for coming to Let's Talk About It.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
On this note, we'll be right back.
Thank you.
NABN TV, inspiring a new generation.